All right, welcome. We are now looking at blue commons. We just got done looking at white, and I was really disappointed in white commons. They're pretty bad. So hopefully blue will be there for me. Typically in sealed, blue, green, and black are where you want to be. So white and red are more of a draft color. So I'm looking forward to see what blue has for me. A null! Counter target artifact or enchantment. Great sideboard card though. Augury Raven, Flying Foretell. Yeah. Wait, this is Phantom Monster. Wait a minute. Yeah, would I actually sideboard a null in? Yeah, if you're talking about the previous card, yeah, you would sideboard a null in. I mean, there's lots of artifacts, like, there's lots of sagas in this set. And, there's a lot of, like, for instance, that white rare, right? The 2 white rare that turns into a 2-mana artifact. There's, like, vehicles. There's equipment. There's sagas. Yeah. It's a sideboard card, for sure. It's a sideboard card. But you don't main deck it. But you would definitely bring it up. If you needed to. If you see at least 4 or 5 targets and, like, one really good target, you bring it in. But yeah, Augury Raven. Holy moly. Starting things out with a bang. That's a bang. Phantom Monster is way above rate for a limited magic card, which is just straight up 4 mana 3/3 flying. And is way above rate. And it has Foretell. This is a bang. This is a banger. For a Frenchonella, it's a banger. Behold the Multiverse. Scry 2, then draw 2 cards. This is a banger. I thought it'd be Scry 2, draw 1 card. No, it's Scry 2. This is a banger. Holy moly. I would slash for this card, to be honest. Yeah, Foresee was 3 and a blue, Scry 4, draw 2. That was a sorcery. It didn't have Foretell. So this is an instant that has Foretell. Okay, well, I think we understand why white is never good in Sea Unlimited. I think we figured it out. I think we figured it out. The thing is, Behold the Multiverse is the instants are kind of special because it is free to foretell them. Because you can foretell it on your turn, and your opponent's end step you can cast this, right? So this is better than a 2-for-1. This is like a 2.5 or almost a 3-for-1 because you're gonna like scry your land to the bottom, right? Yeah, the white 5-mana 4/4 has 4 separate conditions to maybe draw a specific card. This is like, I don't know where you come from, but where we come from, we don't have conditions in our card draw. We just do it. Bergstrider. When Bergstrider enters the battlefield, tap target artifact or creature an opponent controls. If white was spent to cast this spell, that permanent doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Oh. 4 and a blue. Yeah, 4 and a blue, 4/4. Okay. Yeah, sorry. If what? Yeah, you're right. It's not a white mana symbol, it's a snow symbol. My bad. I'm thinking Ruins of Traquair. When I think of white mana symbol, I think Ruins of Traquair. And the white mana symbol on the old cards looks like snow. Anyways. It's a snow creature. That's great. If snow was spent to cast this spell, okay, yeah. So you're probably going to have between 2 and 4 snow lands in your deck. Maybe 5 if there might be snow artifacts. Who knows? This is a good one. So there was a 5-mana 3/3 flying that just had like ETB tap doesn't Chillbringer is what it was. Chill something. 5-mana 3/3 flyer that ETB to tap and doesn't untap next turn, and that card was phenomenal. This card isn't as good as that. It was a Chillbringer, yeah. This card isn't as good as that, but it's a 3/3 flyer is better than the 4/4 ground. But here's the problem I have with design in just like blue cards in general. Blue isn't supposed to get like the same size creatures everybody else has, right? I mean, the joke is blue is tricksy, right? And then like their cards have -1 stat point, but they're tricksy. Yeah, exactly. 5 years ago, this is a 3/2. A 3/2 or a 3/3. No flying. Yeah, that's a condition only imposed on white. Yeah. I imagine my opponent playing Bergstrider into Bergstrider, and I'm just going to get run over. Right? Like, they play a 3/3, I play a 3/3. They play Bergstrider, tap my 3/3, and attack me. I'm like, okay, great. I untap and play a 4/4. They're like, okay, Bergstrider, tap your 4/4, attack you. And I'm like, oh, I'm at 10, facing down 11. All I have is an untapped 3/3. Like, I'm done. I imagine just dying to double Bergstrider openers. So, this card, I wish this was a white card. But it's not. So, but here's the thing. Bergstrider is a life gain card. Right? Because if you play a Bergstrider and you tap your opponent's creature that like your opponent's 3/3 flyer, you gain 3 life. Right? Like, this is what white cards should be, but it's a blue card. It's going to have the ability around 80% of the time. That's what I would expect. 70 to 80% of the time. Obviously, if you only have 2 Snowlands, don't play this card. If you have 3.5 to 5, oh, this card is going to be great for you. So, I'll actually call it a 7. You know, call it a 7. But it can go up to an 8 or 9 if you have enough Snowlands. Do types matter? I don't think so. Snowlands only? There's no duels, right? There's no duels and there's no artifacts, right? It's no artifact mana. So, when bind the monster enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature, it deals damage to you equal to its power. It just gets 1 cost terminate? This card has existed in the past. Recently, this card has existed, right? What am I thinking of? Was it in the second Ravnica set? It was in the black or the Rakdos set, right? There's a black-red one. There's Feed the Swarm. This is better than Feed the Swarm. They had a blue Vendetta. Oh, it's not instant, but yeah. I mean, ideally you put this on a card that has 3 or less power, right? If it has 4 or more power, you're getting into dangerous territory. But at 1, 2, or 3, this is a price you're willing to pay. It reminds me of what is it? Runner's Gambit? Is that what it's called? Which was a white and a 1 and a blue to tap a 3 cost or less and it doesn't untap. It reminds me a lot of that. Is it Runner's Bane? Yeah, it's Runner's Bane. Yeah, it's kind of like a pseudo Frixie mana. It's like a blue dismember. Yeah, viewing it as like a blue dismember. That's not a bad idea to think about. I mean, it being sorcery speed is bad, and it being an aura is certainly worse. So it's not like, you know, Dismember is a tier 1 card that's in all formats, right? So that's not that good. You're not going to see this constructed, but I mean, I'll put it as an 8. I think this is better than the white. I think this is better than the white one. The 2 and a white. The arrest in white. This is better than that. Not by much. Maybe not. Maybe not. The white card can hit planeswalkers. This one can't, right? And the other white one can hit vehicles too, right? Yeah, maybe. I'll put it like you wouldn't play 3 of these, right? Whereas you would play 3 of the arrest. You wouldn't play 3 of these. Yeah, I think it's closer to a 7. I think you're right. I think you're right. I think this is more of a 7. I mean, this can trigger like 2 spells matters cards pretty easily. Like there's that 3 mana 3/2 white card that says whenever you play your second spell, gain 2 life. It's easy to play 2 spells with cards like this in your deck. I'll put it as a 7. No, it's not an aggro removal spell. You played it. You played it on all your deck. Like, you have to understand that Sealed isn't aggro or control. It's like you just play your 23 best cards. It's good cards. It's good cards dot deck. All your Sealed decks are all gonna be good cards dot decks. Flash. Enters the battlefield, target creature and opponent controls -2/0. That's a pass for me. When this was a 2 mana 1/2 flyer, it was different. Fairy Duelist was bananas. This is not a flyer. Like the 1/2 is not a card. Like target creature and opponent controls gets -2/0 is not a card, and a 1/2 flash is not a card. So yeah, this is a card you would just not play. Depart the Realm instant. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Foretell blue. Man. So lately they have started printing cards like this that say only target non-land permanent and opponent controls. Because it sickens me. It sickens me that blue is supposed to be the worst. It's supposed to be the worst color for combat tricks, but unsummons like the best combat trick you could have. And it's in blue. And it's a foretell card. It's a super unsummon. Like, unsummon is a card you would always play, right? Because it's so versatile. You can bounce your own creature in response to removal spells. You can bounce your own, like, Necrotol type effect. Your own, like, ETB kill a creature. And this also hits sagas after the 3rd hit, right? Because the way sagas work is you can trigger the 3rd ability and then bounce it in response, right? And so you get to like rebuy. It's just ugh. Yeah, why doesn't white just get this card? This should just be a white card. No. This card's great. Always play it. Disdainful Stroke. Counter target spell with convert mana cost 4 or greater. Yeah, well. This has been printed before. This is like... this is like a 6, but it's between main deck or sideboard. It kind of just depends how the format shapes up. If the format's like pretty slow and it's about like big bombs, then you can main deck this card. But I think this is mostly a sideboard card. I'm gonna put it as a 5. I'll put it as a 5.5, I guess. But I think it's mostly just a sideboard card. I wouldn't be embarrassed to main deck this. But I'm pretty... You're right that this actually... You're right that Disdainful Stroke might actually be better in this format than others because of Foretell. Because your opponent's going to be playing 6 mana cards on turn 4 or turn 5 that you kind of want to counter, right? And the fact Disdainful Stroke actually gets a lot better when you have cards, when you have Behold the Multiverse, right? You can like foretell Behold the Multiverse on turn 4 and leave open either foretelling this or casting Disdainful Stroke, right? And that's pretty strong. That's really strong. I'm going to put it as a 6. It is really good against Foretell, yeah. And it's really good against Bergstrider, for sure. But I don't know if we want to be metagaming against Bergstrider quite yet. Draugr Thought Thief. When Draugr Thought Thief enters the battlefield, look at the top card of target player. Okay. 3/2 no text. Yeah, it's Fate Seal, right? Fate Seal a player. I mean, they could call it Surveil, but it's target player, right? I would imagine you're gonna target your opponent on non-zero, like. I wonder if you get. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how if I was the type of person to play this card, would I be targeting my opponent or myself? Because here's the thing: if it was a 3-cost 3/2 Surveil one, that's not a horrible card. Yeah, like basically past turn 5, you're probably targeting your opponent, right? And that could be really strong. I'll put it as a 6. I think you're pretty unlikely to play this card. It's like 5.5, 6. Maybe, I mean, yeah. I think because there were some cards, there were some white cards that wanted you to exile cards from your graveyard, right? So, exile creature cards from your graveyard. So, like, having a Surveil 1, I mean, if this is a 1/4, it'd be a better card. The fact that it's a 3/2 is certainly bad. I'll give it a 6. Yeah, I'll give it a 6. It depends on what's in the set. This could be better than I think. Frost Peak Yeti. Can't be blocked. I imagine losing to this card a lot. I like this card. When blue wait, why does blue get to have Phantom Monster? Wait, why does it get to have Uber Phantom Monster? And it gets to have this. Alright, well. Yeah, it's Tome Anima. That's exactly what this is. Right. Yeah, it can't be blocked as long as you draw 2 or more cards this turn. That's exactly what this feels like. Because for Tome Anima, you generally have to pay 2 or more mana to like draw 2 cards, right? So it does feel like a Tome Anima for sure. Tome Anima was, well, it was okay. It's on the level of Draugr Thought Thief, right? It's also a snow permanent, right? I don't know. It's worse than it's worse than Snapping Drake, I think, but it's not by much. I'll give it a 5, just because the other blue cards seem so much better to me. Ah, yes. In all the sets, there's always a 2-mana 1/3 common that taps for a mana for instants and sorceries. Spend this mana only to foretell a card from your hand or cast an instant or sort. Oh, so it's better because you can actually foretell a card. Wait, what? How does this work? Spend this mana only to foretell a card from your hand. So if a card has foretell, I can't just cast it, right? It's the face down. Like I can't play Augury Raven on turn 3. I can't go 2 mana 1/3 and then into 4 mana 3/3. I can't do that. All right. These cards are typically better than they look. In the right deck, this card is good. But I think in the vast majority of the time, you're probably not going to play it. These cards are generally traps. In the right deck, they are like, it's like a 7. But I think the amount of instants and sorceries, what are you going to have? You're going to have 7 instants or sorceries in your deck, probably. Maybe 8. And you're going to have what? Maybe 3 foretell cards? But, like, those cards, does it even matter that you have a blue to cast them? I mean, yeah, I don't like it either. I put it at a 5. These cards, they printed, these are a dime a dozen. They're in all the sets, and they've never been good. They've been good in the, if your deck is busted, this card is great. Because if your deck is busted, you want a defensive 2-drop that accelerates you. And this is exactly what this does. Alright. Lijara Kinseekers. 3 and a blue, 2/4. Changeling, this is the first time we've seen one of these. When here's the battlefield, if you control 3 or more creatures that share a creature type. If you control 3 or more creatures that share a creature type, put a counter on Lijara Kinseekers, then scry 1. 4 mana, 2/4. 4 mana, 3/5, scry 1. It counts itself, so you need 2 others. At least 2 others. I mean, they have to share a creature type. This looks like a trap, unless Changeling matters. I mean, obviously it gets better the more Changelings you have. But 4 minutes, like in the past, what was it? In the desert set, the pyramid set, there was a 4 mana 2/4 Surveil 2. And that card was good. Playable. But in that set, you had creatures that can be rebought from the graveyard. This is a 4 mana 2/4. +1/+1 counter. I mean, what are the odds this is going to work? Less than half the time, right? Well, a 2/4 is better than a 3/3. How good is a 4 mana 3/5? Pretty good. Scry 1 is a big part of that, I think. I think on turn 6 is when this is going to be on, right? The joke with this card is on turn 6, you're going to play a 2-drop in this. You're going to like foretell a 2-drop or play a 2-drop in this. And it's going to be a 4 mana 3/5 scry 1. It's like a split card, 4-drop, 6-drop, 4-drop, 7-drop, whatever. I'm going to put it as a 6. I think you're probably going to play it a lot of the time. Yeah, because I think Changeling might be worth something. I mean, we'll see when we see other cards in the set. We always reserve the right to go back and change things. Mist of Lijara. Enchant creature or vehicle, -3/0. Slimebind, right? Slimebind was -4/0, right? Slimebind was amazing. And not only enchanted creatures, just gonna hit vehicles. This is way better than it looks. Because like you attack with your 3/3 and then they block with their 3/3 and then you Mist of Lijara their creature. Even if they have a combat trick, their guy is still an 0/3 afterwards. So it's like it's the type of combat trick that's like worry free. Like if you have something, okay. If you don't have something, that's fine too, right? So, and it's an aura that costs 2 or less, so the white cards work with it, right? This card's probably pretty good. I think this is pretty comparable to the Arrest and white. It costs less and has flash, so. Mistwalker, Changeling, +1, -1 until end of turn. This card's great. This card's great. This is a solid 7. Solid 7. You're all like 7s are like or where like you're always gonna play them basically. If you're playing the color blue, yeah, it has flying. Right, I know it has flying. Did I not say that? Yeah, 3 mana 1/4 flyer that has like fire breathing. Yeah, and it has Changeling. Like. Even if it didn't have Changeling, it would still be a 7, right? So, if it didn't have Fire Breathing and it didn't have Changeling, you would still play it. As a 3 mana 1/4 flyer, you would just play that card. And it has two other abilities. So, this is a super solid 7. In white, this would be an 8. This is way better than the 4 mana 3/2 flyer. In white, this would be an 8, but blue is actually so good, it can just be a 7. Pilfering Hawk. Flying. Oh, it's a looter. Okay. Flying looter. I like the fail condition on this. Like, on Merfolk Looter, your fail condition is you get a 1/1 ground creature, right? The fail condition of this being a Stormcrow, I'm on board with it. Yeah, it's also a snow creature. Yeah, it's also a snow creature. Yeah, this is good. This is a solid 7. I think it's worse than Augury Haven, which I think is a solid 8. So Augury Haven's the 4-mana 3/3 flyer. I mean, this would be an 8 in blue, or this would be an 8 in white, but it's not. So I think you're gonna have it like 80% of the time by turn 5, right? You're gonna have a snowland. So exile target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 blue bird creature token with flying. Why isn't this white? Yeah, it's a 9. Hits artifacts or creatures. And, like, you can block... From what we've seen, it has, like, Pilfering Hawk and it has Mistwalker, right? And it has, 3/3 flyer. So, it has flyers to deal with the 1/1 that you give them. Yeah, well, this is better than Crypt Swap. I mean, Crypt Swap is a 3-mana instant. But I don't know how... The thing about Crypt Swap being an instant, like, you can't force through a creature anyways, right? Yeah, you can target your own cards with this. You can, if you want. Why is this... This feels like an uncommon to me. This reminds me of Pongify, which was a 1-mana instant. Like, it was like bury target creature, and that creature's controller gets a 3/3. And that card has always been amazing. Oh, and yeah, you're right. And Crypt Swap gave them a Changeling, which was actually kind of bad in that, and it was like a tribal format. They don't even get a Changeling, they get a bird. Yeah, this is Frogify. Yeah, maybe this is an 8. Frogify is pretty damn bad. No, but the reason why Frogify was bad is that it didn't kill the creature. They can, like, get rid of the enchantment. It has, and all the problems Passivism had. But it also allowed them to attack and block. This doesn't have the problems that Passivism has. Because, like, there's no getting the creature back. It's gone for good. Yeah, I'm thinking how much power level does Foretell add to this card? That's what I'm thinking. Like, if it was just 3-mana exile target artifact or creature, his controller makes a 1/1, I'm not sure it would be that good. Which tells, and I don't think Foretell's that good, so it makes me think maybe this card is not that great. But you're right, it does hit artifacts. That may matter. Yeah. I'm actually going to downgrade this to an 8. Because I'm not sure it's better. I'm not sure it's better than this. I don't think it is. I don't think it's better than Mists. You think it's a sideboard only? It sucks. I think if it was just the 3-mana version, I agree with you. So maybe it should be a 7. No, you're probably right, actually. Frogify is a card I never played. I'd be embarrassed to play Frogify in my sealed deck. No, you're right. I would be embarrassed to play Frogify. But the thing is, this is way better than Frogify, I think. Even though it gets a flying token, I think it's way better than Frogify. And Frogify was a card I boarded in a non-zero amount of the time. This card may be good enough to main deck. Let's move it down to a 7. Yeah, let's move it down to a 7. I don't think it's better than Miss. I think it's very clearly worse than Miss. I think it's about the it's either about the same or worse than Pilfering Hawk. I think it's worse than Mistwalker. Secure the Scene? You're right. Secure the Scene was a 5-mana white card. You're right. But first of all, it being blue. Second of all, it costing either 1 or 3 is a lot better than 5. You're right that Secure the Scene is actual trash tier. It's a card I would never play. You're correct. Secure the Scene was 5-mana exile target non-land, right? Exile non-land, they get a 1/1 soldier. That card sucks. And Frogify sucks. So we have two ends of the spectrum, right? Of cards that are similar to this card that have been printed in the past. That are both bad. Which means its pedigree is not good. But I have to think it costing less And having Foretell has to matter. And getting Shatters out of blue has to matter, right? I'll give it a 6. I think you're right. No, I think it's worse than Mistwalker. I think it's worse than Mistwalker, and I think it's worse than Mist of Lichara. I think you're right. Make it a 6. 6.5. It's a main deck shatter. Yeah. No, you're right. It bothers me how close it is to Frogify. Frogify and Secure the Scene, which are both unplayable cards. It does bother me. Is this worse than Disdainful Strike? It's deck dependent, I think. Make it a 5.5 then. How about that? Make it a 5.5. I mean, Scissors, imagine this. Imagine your opponent plays a 3-3. Imagine your opponent plays a 3-3 and you Raven form it. You played a 3-mana deadweight. Right? Like, what are you planning on killing with this? You kill, like, it has to, if you're not targeting a 4-4 or better. But if you're targeting a 4-4, I think it's actually just worse than this, worse than this, right? I'd rather they have a 1-4 ground than a 1-1 flyer. I'd rather it just be like, I'd rather have a flash combat trick than, like, you see what I'm saying? I think it's, first of all, do you think it's worse or better than Mr. Lichara? Well, this can also hit vehicles. You think it's definitely better than Mr. Lichara? If I had 3 of these, I would play them all. If I had 3 of these, I would not play all 3. Are we not in agreement there? Well, no one cares, but this is a sealed stream. We don't talk about constructed here. All right, we're gonna move on. I think we've said what we need to say. It's either like a 5 or a 6. Worst case scenario, it's like a 6.5, right? It's because I think Mr. Lichara is a solid 8. This is a solid 8, and this is worse than that. So it's either between 5 and 7. Run ashore. Choose one or both. The owner of target non-land permanent puts it on top or bottom of their library. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Okay. What is this? What are we thinking about? So Totally Lost was a 4 and a blue instant. Put target permanent on top of its owner's library. And that card was like a solid 6. That card was a solid 6. This card, is this card better than that? 6 mana is a lot more than 5. Double blue is a lot more than single blue. Late game top deck? I don't think so. I think this is a 5. There have been a lot of passivism effects in the format that I've seen. You are correct. You are right. White had them and blue has 2 or 3, right? Blue has this. It has Mist. It has Bind the Monster. Right? Okay, so it has 2. Blue has 2, white has 1. This card is way better than... The problem is, cards of this type of effect in the past have all had cycling. There's like Floodwaters, and then there was one that was just like... That was... Another one just had 3 mana cycling, right? It was like a 1 mana cycler and a 3 mana cycler, right? And they both cost 6, and they bounce 2 things. Yeah, there might have been one with Delve. I think this is a solid 5. I don't think you play this main deck. I think you might be able to bring it in if your opponent has passivisms. I don't think you main deck this. Sea God's Revenge. Sea God's Revenge sucked. So that was bounce 3 creatures, scry 1. That card sucked. So that means it's a solid 5. You're right. The better your deck is, the worse this card is. Like, this card's pretty good if your deck is really bad. But like I think this card is worse than Lost in Thought. Which, like I said, which is the 4 and a blue, put target permanent on top of its owner's library, target on-land. That was a solid 6. In the sense that, like, you would main that card, that card, and it's not embarrassing. Right? It was just not embarrassing. There's not an embarrassing card. I think this is, like, pretty significantly worse than that. Like, I don't want to pay an extra blue mana for a conditional, for, like, an unsummon. I'm not about that. Disperse, whatever. Yeah, Totally Lost. Yeah, that's what I meant. Strategic planning. This is a reprint. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, the rest in your graveyard. Yeah, I mean, I don't like these types of effects a lot of the time. If you have a graveyard payoff, maybe. If you don't, it's Sorcery Speed Anticipate. Anticipate is not a card you would play. I typically do not play Anticipate effects in Limited and Sealed. So unless I have a card I want to grab, or I'm 2.5 colors and looking for my other land. But this card can be backfiring. Yeah, especially with Foretell being in the format, like you already have things to do with your 2 mana, so I'm not about this. This is a solid 6. You don't board it, but like it's like on the level of embarrassing to play as a 3-mana 3/2 surveil one, right? I actually think it's worse than this. I think it's probably worse than this. I'll make it. Yeah, you're right. I think it's probably closer to a 4. I think you're right. I think it's pretty significantly worse than this. Unless there's a Graveyards Matters theme, which I have not seen yet. I mean, White has this weird Graveyards Matters thing. I'll put it as a 5. White has this weird thing going on where it like exiles cards in your graveyard to do something, right? There's like a 4-mana 3/2 flyer that costs 2 if you exile a creature, and so you could strategic planning into like 2 creatures and a land, and like, yeah, I mean, I'm reaching too deep on that one. No, all right. Undersea Invader, Flash, enters the battlefield tapped. Torrential Gearhulk. But you don't get to do the best thing Torrential Gearhulk does, which was block a creature in combat. It's either a 5 or a 6, right? Yeah. I don't know why blue gets to have giant creatures at common. I don't know why. But yeah, I think it's a 6. It's on the level as 3-mana 3/2. I think our numbers are a bit higher on this one. We have like no completely unplayable cards outside of this. We have one completely like actual unplayables, right? Like if we look at White has a lot of like actual unplayables, a lot of actual unplayables, and the only like truly embarrassing card is Brine Barrow Intruder. Oh, you're right on Annul, but Annul is a good sideboard card, so it gets a pass. You're right. Brine Barrow Intruder is much more of a 2. You're right. All right, fine. It's a 1. It's a 1. It's the only truly unplayable card. I think there's like not a whole lot of embarrassing cards. Obviously, Pilfering Hawk is a 1 if you don't have at least 4 snowlands, right? I mean, I'll put it as like a 1 or a 7, right? Or it's like maybe a 3 or a 7, right? If you've got at least 4 snowlands, if you got at least 4 snowlands, this is going to be a 7, right? But if you don't have at least 4 snowlands, it's going to be a 3. You plan on activating this, like, the thing is you can play Pilfering Hawk into Foretell plus use the snow ability, right? So that's kind of neat. That you like, it's a looter that costs mana to activate that we can conceivably activate on turn 3 and still not like totally interrupt your plans. I think the most controversial card is Raven Form, which it's between 5 and 7 on the power level of this card. Some of my chat think it's 7 and 7.5. But I think the fact that Mr. Lichara is in the format, and I think Mr. Lichara is pretty clearly better than Raven Form, makes it. And I think Mr. Lichara is a pretty solid 8. So it's between 5 and 7.5. So and 5 is the benchmark of whether you want to play it main deck or not. You wouldn't have it over Bind? Yeah, like you think Bind the Monster's better, right? I guess that's another thing we didn't think about. No, you're right. Bind the Monster's better, right? Than Raven Form? And I think Bind the Monster is a pretty solid 7. You're right that Radiant Form does not remove a blocker. Like if you exile a creature, if you like have lethal, if you remove a blocker, then this doesn't do it for you. Is Bind better than Miss? No. Bind is incredibly painful. This is an incredibly painful card. This is a really bad top deck, and it's incredibly painful. So this having flash is like, I think is bananas. Slime Bind was a bananas card, so there's so much equipment. I mean, we haven't gotten there yet, so we don't know. All right, that's gonna be it for me, Blue Commons.